It's a true pleasure for me to be here in Brazil. It's the first time. The first time I came here was back in 1978, invited by Mr. Giacometti to give a class in Brasilia, and one of the students was Victoria Rossetti, that then I was amazed by her work. So people thought at the time that the citrus growing in Sao Paulo would be finished because of this disease, because of, we would talk then about citrus canker, blight, sudden death, and all that. And then, every time I come here, the citrus growers here have been able to show that everything that we forecast in the past was not really something that would ruin our citrus production. They were able to control those diseases. And Brazil has an important plant protection culture. Today, in Europe, we do not have HLB, but I'll be talking about it. In Spain, we have had experience with different diseases. In the 70s, we had a situation of all varieties of citrus being affected with different diseases, like citrus tristeza virus killing a lot of trees because of our using para orange, bitter orange. So the situation was very similar to what we had in Brazil. We had generalized severe diseases or damage caused by tristeza and other viral diseases. All varieties were infected not by one pathogen, but several of them that would cause a loss in terms of quality, production, etc. There was a very important limitation in the use of rootstock that were tolerant to the tristeza virus. And the limitation was because they were susceptible to other diseases. And also we had a lower number of varieties available. And so citriculture in Spain was limited to fresh fruit. So it's important that we have a different or larger number of varieties. So the viral diseases were the main limitation for the development and for keeping the citrus growing in Europe. So because of those diseases, citriculture in Spain was estimated to finish. That's what we thought in the past would happen to Brazilian or citriculture in the state of Sao Paulo. But then we started to use the technique of micrografting of stem apex in vitro. This technique started to be used in 1974. It's a technique that we employ today, just like we did 40 years ago, 30 years ago. So it still works perfectly. And it's a technique that allows us to have healthy plants starting from diseased plants. Spain was the first country in the world that dared to use a biotechnological technique. Well, this technology is not only limited to transgenics. In fact, Spain was the first country in the world then that dared to use biotechnology as a micrografting for a program that had the goal of preventing our citriculture to have losses due to diseases. The objective of this program that started in 1975 was obtaining plants that were free of pathogens of all Spanish varieties by the use of micrografting in vitro, this technique. So we then introduced varieties from other countries by means of a procedure of in vitro quarantine. That's important because we all know, and you in Brazil also have experience with that we are those responsible for introducing diseases in different areas from different countries, and it's very difficult to introduce vegetal materials in a different area without introducing also the diseases that may accompany them. So we have also conservation of pathogen-free plants in germplasm bank or collection. And so we started to have that to distribute material that is healthy to nursery plants, and then by means of certification program. So we had to make a lot of change, and we had to involve all sectors. And afterwards, in Spain, well, it's hard to come to agreements in Spain, but for this program, we came to a consensus among all sectors involved. And this control system was really simple for diseases that were transmitted by grafting. So there was a cleaning program with a quarantine, with certification, and then finally the citrus growers could have access to healthy materials in the end. This is a way that is of seeing the whole process in a little bit more complicated way. But remember, importing varieties then goes through micrografting in vitro, and then we come to healthy plants because we can prove that by means of techniques that are complex and difficult, we then can really prove the plants are healthy. And once we do that, then we can have a certification, and we can keep a protected germplasm collection. And then we have plots for multiplication, plots for nurseries, and and then plants that are certified in the end with indexing too. In all propagation system, we can have phases that will recontaminate the plant. So the initial plant is tested for all diseases by means of different methods. It's surprising to see this, but we have work coming from all the biological diagnosis that will detect possible diseases that otherwise wouldn't be possible to be detected, and also because that allows us to have pathogen strains that could not be identified with other techniques, like PCR and others. So we have many indicator plants as well that we use, and that allows us to identify most of the diseases present. Techniques allows us to detect or to get to know diseases that are not known in other parts of the world. So the initial plants have to be analyzed by means of biological methods. So we use all technologies available, and we work for many years. We have worked for many years with those different assays, and so that we can come to the diagnosis of different diseases. Here. So here we have the viroids, different techniques used for identification, PCR and qPCR. And with all this, we are able to diagnose any disease affecting citrus in the world that have importance to our citriculture. So with all this program, what we have is a germplasm collection that initially was aimed at commercial varieties, but then very quickly we got to the need of having genetic breeding programs, and then we have also to import a large amount of materials with for generic material to be available. So with that, we enlarged our germplasm collection with more than 600 genotypes available for both research and for citrus growers. So the system, this is the system for propagation of healthy materials. This is in a protected environment in Spain. The origin of the material is the same for all nurseries. So this is one of the sheds that is protected for the certification program. So we have public varieties and private varieties. That's for plant protection. And then we have all the materials that are going to be propagated and then planted into the field. This is an area of the nursery that is covered. And then we have also the mother plants, and here multiplication plots for plants to be then sent to citrus growers. So we have had more than 156 million healthy plants being distributed. So that caused a complete renewal of our citriculture in Spain. So our citriculture, we can say it's totally new. What is the current status of citriculture in Spain then? Now, well, the first sentence there, the first bullet, is very important. That is, the health of Spanish citriculture is excellent. We do not have any diseases that will cause damage to the production in a direct way. The best varieties in the world, including the protected ones, are available for citrus growers. So by means of a system of quarantine, we have been able to keep the best varieties in the world, including protected ones, to be available then to citrus growers. Spain ranks 5th in citriculture in the world and is the first exporting of fresh fruit in the world, with approximately $4,400 million estimated production. It might be much lower than that in the other countries. So this is the added value for fresh fruit is much higher than the fruit for processing. So that is the perfect situation it seems. But in fact, we have some worries because we do have health threats that are really important, like citrus canker, chlorosis, and black spot, and HLB, Huanglongbang, witch's broom, and leprosis. HLB is really important and also has the regulations and everything. The European Union says the direct imports of plants is forbidden. We can only introduce the materials by means of following a strict program. So we have the needs for quarantine for importing materials. So although varieties can only be introduced through a system including quarantine, it might be that we have clandestine imports. They are not enough punished. So those imports should be punished more severely, and I'm going to be talking about this. So if someone, let's say, goes through an airport with materials like vegetative or vegetal materials, then we can have a risk there, and that if identified is not severely punished. One of the risks is that for fresh fruit, the varieties are really important. So here we have new varieties for citrus, for protection, plant protection, and that is for the Oficina Española de Variedades Vegetales, OIVV. So I'm not going to go into details, but here's the number of varieties that are protected. 147 varieties are protected. They are being protected. So from the legal point of view, all varieties that should be registered, they have to go through this program before being analyzed for protection. So all imports of legal materials, they will then pose no risks. However, what happens there is the royalties for propagation or for importing those varieties is not observed. That is, the illegal imports is something that takes place so that people don't have to pay royalties. So this is not really updated. In yellow, we have the commercial plantings, and in green, we have the areas with the Triosa eritrea. So Triosa eritrea is coming to the producing areas, and here's the region of Algarve where it's coming in through. So there is a risk of our having this vector, not the Diaphorina, but rather Triosa eritrea. That's very important. Here we have the prevention plans for HLB in Spain and Portugal. We have a contingency plan for Triosa, a contingency plan for HLB, and also for Diaphorina. And all programs have the objective of inspection for detection and eradication. They're made earlier. But those plans are not in coordination between Spain and Portugal, not even with other countries in the European Union. So something else that is taking place in Europe is that the eradication of Triosa has failed in Spain and Portugal, in the Canary Islands, and also in the continent. The regulation of certification that is at the level of the European Union is not strict enough, not proper to controlling HLB. And the resources for investigation are really low. So we have to make extra efforts to do with the resources that we have, financial resources. And finally, the problem that we have is that regulations for production of citrus nursery plants have been reduced because we have to, because they are following those in other countries. So certified plants are produced in a covered area, but this is not mandatory. That is something voluntary. So some people will produce nursery plants in an open area, and that is legal in other areas. So with those under those circumstances, then the private sector has a vital role. So we have to be careful not to have HLB introduced, and currently we would need more funds and more research for us to deal with the risk in the future of HLB. Thank you very much for your attention.